Wow. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Larry Stritch. I'm going to read your bio.
Oh, no.
Wait a minute, that's fine. Okay, so Larry began learning about gardening from his mother and grandfather as a young child. In 1985, he graduated with a PhD in botany from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. He went to work for the Illinois Department of Conservation and Natural Heritage Program. In 88, he went to work with the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, as the forest botanist on the Shawnee National Forest, later becoming the regional botanist, Eastern Region. The regional forester assigned him to be the lead on the conversion of the Joliet Army ammunition plant to become the nation's first national prairie. The Illinois Conservation Act of 1995 became law in February 1996. The Minnewanne National Tallgrass Prairie was created. In 98, he became the national botanist for the Forest Service. There are two projects that he is extremely proud of and definitely should be. So one is the Native Plant Policy, FSM 2070. As of today, it is still the only official native plant policy of a federal agency. Secondly was his work on pollinators, including the Monarch Federal Interagency Task Force, USDA Policy Task Force, and finally, he was appointed by the Secretary of Agriculture to be the USDA member of President Obama's Pollinator Health Task Force. Out of this PHTF, on May 19, 2015, President Obama issued the national strategy to promote the health of honeybees and other pollinators. He retired from the U.S. Forest Service in 2016. Him and Penny enjoyed gardening, your membership in PVAS, and other activities. So thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you. Well, I thought I would start off with something before I get to that first slide, just to give you an idea. In 1998, I was here in DC for the Forest Service. Nobody talked about pollinators. Nobody talked about pollinators. The only people who talked about pollinators were ethnologists from universities. So there was a decision put together on a volunteer basis, people that got together for this meeting. And so all the federal land management agency people were there, NGOs, whatever, and saying we've got to do something somehow. And out of that came a meeting, national meeting, we see that eventually led to the North American Pollinator Protection Campaign, NAPC, and they're going great guns. And so it's really, really nice to see that. They have an annual meeting every year. There's usually, several hundred people to show up for that. So just wanted to let you know how this all came about. It took some strong leadership. Luckily, in the course of the chief, who called on me to do a lot of stuff for him, was into it. He got it. And then we lucked out. I mean, we never suggested it, but we heard from the secretary that President Obama wanted to do this health strategy. It was primarily addressed at honeybees because of the terrible declines. But we also got native pollinators into it as well. So that was pretty good. And yeah, so pollinators has been very exciting for me. A botanist, no pollinators, no flower seed. So anyway. So what is pollination? Pollination is the process of moving pollen from one flower to another of the same species, which produce fertile seeds. Almost all flowering plants need to be pollinated. Some plants are pollinated by wind, water, and some are self-pollinated. However, the majority of flowering plants depend on bees, wasps, flies, butterflies, and moths. Does the green button?
Oh, so minutes to go in.
Okay, thank you. So, what is a native plant? It depends on who you ask. These are things I've heard from professionals, horticulturalists, and things like that. So this is not trying to make some stuff up. It's just funny. Although it is kind of funny. It's a native plant if it grows in North America. And I was at a meeting where somebody said that. I said, well, is it native that grows anywhere on Earth if we're on the moon? He didn't like that response, but I didn't like his answer. It's native to North America. Is it a native plant that grows east of the 100th meridian? Just to explain that, 100th meridian is this line from north to south that occurs roughly where the tall grass prairie starts and the Great Plains, all that other stuff ends. It is a native plant if it grows in the eastern deciduous forest. It's native if it grows in the mixed mesophytic forest of the Appalachian Mountains. It is native if it grows within 5 miles of where you're sitting. And the reason I know that, this was a long, long time ago. We had a member that was, we were talking about native plants, and she got on this interesting vocabulary, let's put it that way, that you have to go out and collect the seed yourself, because otherwise it's not native. And she's not totally wrong. If you think about the orange milkweed, that thing grows all the way to Arizona into the Rocky Mountain front. So when you go to any big box store, I would say almost any nursery, you have no idea where the seed came from. So, the way it works is that you can't know. There's just no way. Let's face it, nobody is going to make money. Private nurseries are not going to make money if they have to do it within X number of miles or whatever. But so. Oh, yeah. But at the end of the day, all that matters is what you decide. Each one of you will make a decision of how you're going to address what is a native plant for your garden and how you want to implement that. That's just the way it is, And the reason I say that is because I know even the big seed producers that you find online, hundreds of native plants, they sell it in seed packets for like $3. But again, I've been to their operation. It's on about 50 acres, and they have these huge blocks of single species that they grow. And then they have employees who go out in the fall and collect the seed. And then it gets processed and packaged and all that kind of good stuff. I think the point here is you have to accept that because there's no other choice. And the reason you have to accept it is because of pollinators. Most of the pollinators, I would say 80% of pollinators in this neck of the woods are generalists. Bumblebees could care less where if it's a composite where it came from. Never really ask if they don't care. The only ones that are specialist bees or insects. So we'll go south to like North Carolina. There is the southern blueberry bee. It only comes out for 2 weeks every year to pollinate the southern blueberry. And they coordinate, think about that. And then, not what we're going to talk about tonight, but just think about climate change with that one. So anyway, yes, I'm very, very proud. I got to be at the right place at the right time. I was assigned by the chief. We need to have a native plant policy that everybody has to obey, or he said everybody has to implement. And so it took, you're going to find this, took 2 years to get that finalized. Industry wasn't so happy with it, especially the timber industry, because they thought it was just an excuse that they couldn't cut timber. And I spent 3 months talking to those guys back and forth, trying to get them to understand what we're doing. Wildlife biologists within the Forest Service didn't like it because they like to put out their food plots. And if you've ever looked at the seed mix that they put into the food plots, not so much native. So I had to deal with a lot of different people. I had all regional botanists to help me and to talk with their people. And so eventually we got it. And so here's what the Forest Service says in the Forest Service Manual 2070 entitled Vegetation Ecology. Native plant species. A plant species which occurs naturally in a particular region, state, ecosystem, or habitat without direct or indirect human activities. No other, I'm proud of this, no other federal agency has ever been able to do this. Because this kind of stuff's not easy to do. And so you just got to think about it, there's 190 million acres that the Forest Service manages. And they've made a commitment to native plant species. And they know that it's going to affect the pollinators and all that stuff. We advised the chief at the time, let's not try to do something with pollinators as well, because we'll just get shut down by the honeybee industry. And that doesn't get them. So let's talk about native. This is a map about 11,000 years ago when the Wisconsin glacier started to recede. The Laurentide ice sheet, which is the whole thing, including up to Greenland, stopped advancing 50,000 years ago. What is interesting is, look on that map, warm, temperate, broadleaf forest, and where that occurs. Geographically, it's nowhere near where we are tonight. So, it starts to melt. Those numbers you see up there that are sort of moving is how many meters the ice is thick. So, 1,000 years ago, it was 500 meters thick at the most southern extent. And so where we are was like on the west side of the Appalachian Mountains, over the Allegheny portion, with jack pine and tundra, and on our side was spruce forest. 1,000 years ago, that's what it was. And then all the deciduous plants, trees, vines, shrubs, plants were all down in this warm, temperate, broadleaf forest. They were not uniquely spread around the ground. These trees did not occur east of that outwash, what is today the Mississippi River. They were over on the west side of that. So there's a lot of species that have been determined were in one side or the other or both. Now, that is at around 10,000 years ago, with that ice starting to retreat, all this vegetation, all these species started moving back north. At any given century, it could be any combination of all of them. For example, acorns with oak trees, they can move 20 miles a year. They move 20 miles a year because of blue jays. Blue jays like to stuff them into little holes in trees and things. So that's how that works. Well, there wasn't another tree that was going that fast. And so my point with this in native is native given what time? Given what time? I read a paper this past summer that was interesting on neo-native invasives in Canada, because they were talking about how the vegetation, like with what we have here, is going to move north. And so some of those might become invasive to the plant communities that are up in Canada. And they're called neo-native invasives. So think about that one for a while, Because you remember, we're always, oh, native plants, they're the best. Well, somebody in Canada, a couple of centuries ago, may not be agreeing with us. Okay. Women, I would like to include at least one. Lucy Braun was a professor at Ohio University who in the early 1950s started research. She had a small pickup truck, 1950s, era, and she traveled all the way around to places where they knew the forest was old growth. And so she visited this took her about 4 to 5 years to visit everything she wanted to visit that was still considered old growth. And so she came up with this map. And you'll see on this map that our part of West Virginia is in the oak chestnut. Well, chestnut's long gone, so you forget it. This map has been redone by another researcher who wasn't looking at old growth. He was just looking at all these data points, thousands that came in from this part of the country. And so the Western Mesophytic, mixed Mesophytic, and the oak hickory were combined. And he made real good sense of why that was. So anyway, you get to see this now. Lucy Braun is really, really a famous female ecologist. She had no compare at that time. Obviously, she became the first woman to ever become president of the Ecological Society of America. And I want you to think about what that means in the late 1950s. Unbelievable, because it was a bunch of men that had to vote her in. So, Lucy Braun, that book that she wrote, The Eastern Deciduous Forest, is still, they reprinted it. I think it's available, maybe paperback, at least at Amazon, I know. And it's interesting to read, at least the parts where we are. All right, then Dr. Bailey was a forest researcher, the U.S. Forest Service, and he developed this Bailey's ecosystem provinces. And if you follow that, where we are sitting tonight is in the Central Appalachian broadleaf forest, coniferous forest, meadow province. 68,000 square miles within 9 states, primarily forested and mountainous. Elevations range from 300 feet to 6,000 feet. Average annual temperature range 50 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Average year-round precipitation between 35 and 80 inches. USDA hardiness zones 5E to 8A as according to the new plant hardiness map that was issued in late 2023. We'll get to that map a little later. It is dominated by vertical zonation. In other words, stuff moves up in mountains. It's just that things move up, they move down. So that's what they mean by dominated. So as you go further south, when you get into the Tennessee, North Carolina border, it's up there at 6,000 feet. That's where that real tallness occurs. And so species move up and down, and they were moving north. And at the same time of moving north after the glacier, after the Wisconsin, they were also moving up and down on mountains. It's complex. It is so complex that for us to sit around and say, oh, this is a native plant. Well, that's why I said it only matters to you what a native plant is, not to us or anybody else, because it's too complicated. We came up with that definition without any kind of human interaction, direct or indirect. And I got told from the get-go, don't even talk about Native Americans. As the kiss of death, trying to get that policy out. They used a lot of fire, especially in the chestnut forest. They would go in and burn the duff and everything else that was there off so that it would make it easy for the women and children to collect chestnuts that were going to be stored for food in the winter time. So. And chestnut was once abundant, but it's almost gone. The only thing you see is stumps. They set up a couple of shoots and they died down. They are working on a cross between the Chinese and this one to try to get something that is close to what it used to be, but resistant to the disease. As you all know, the common tree species are oak, pine, birch, beech, maple, elm, basswood, hemlock, and spruce. But the deciduous forest is all made up of. And so, as I was talking, what do the three previous maps contribute to finding what a native plant is? We already talked about the ice. We talked about how the species of broadleaf ecosystems began to move north. This is the important part. Each species had its own pace, with constantly changing species compositions of their plant, pollinator, and wildlife communities. Bumblebees have already been documented as we sit here tonight, moving further north. Bumblebees are basically a cold weather species. You can tell that because the queen bumblebee comes out as soon as there's something she can get pollen from. And that's usually with maple or native salix. They have pussy willow as well. So that's what you gotta be keeping in your mind is how this was all changing. It was never just a given definition, and that's it. Doesn't go away. And then let's forward to European settlement in the eastern deciduous forest. At the time of settlement, I want you to think about this: 988,421.5 square miles of eastern deciduous forest. Today, less than 5% of the eastern deciduous forest remains, and it's highly fragmented and contains many invasive species. The other thing with that is to understand it's never going to be what it was before the European country. It just will not be what it was. Can't be. Today, red maple is more important than it ever was. You'll see it everywhere. And then just the changes, no more fire to speak of. And there's all these other things that have just changed. But I didn't know about the 5%. I knew we'd lost a lot. I think, well, that's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. So, who are the pollinators in Berkeley, Jefferson, Morgan counties in West Virginia, and Washington County, Maryland? Well, we got the ruby-throated hummingbird, butterflies, moths, beetles, flies, wasps, native bees, and honeybees. Honeybees are very good at pollination. The reason is they'll go up to 5 miles from their hive looking for pollen and nectar. Bumblebees are the next one in line. They only will go 2 miles. And so you begin to see what the emphasis is, what's going on. And so here's our favorite, at least my favorite, the ruby-throated hummingbird on the scarlet monarda, and question mark butterfly, the 8-spotted forester moth. Oh, I get to talk about moths right now. After bees, moths are considered the most important pollinator. If you look at that legs there, you can see where they're collecting. You will see moths in the daytime if you look, and at nighttime they're the only guys out and around. And so there was a couple papers realized, oh, I can't remember who's the name of the entomologist we brought here at Shepherd maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, Yep, yep, yep. Okay, June beetles. Some people like to call these June bugs. It isn't a bug, it's a beetle. And it's on, one of the native hydrangeas. Flies. Most people use flies. Well, this fly is a tacivid fly. That's on Virginia sweet spire. It's a native flowering shrub. And the way you tell these guys, because they can hover and all that, do they have 2 wings or 4 wings? 4 wings, it's a bee. 2 wings, it's a fly. And then you also have here 2-spotted blue-winged split wasps. Most people don't realize that wasps are also important pollinators. And then if you get later, you get the metallic green sweat bee. And I learned this probably even before I came to West Virginia. Let's see, you're out in the summertime and you're sweating, and all of a sudden you notice this bee on your arm. It's not trying to sting you. You've got all that nice salty sweat, and they're just sucking it up to get minerals. And so I showed this one because it's so beautiful. The metallic green, when you get out there, what I would suggest, you make your own decisions, is really take time, see what's in your garden or your meadow. It isn't just a matter of going down a path and, oh, there's the coneflowers, there's this, there's that. You can do that. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But I would ask you to start looking, because I think you would be fascinated with what you see. Native plants do many things for pollinators. Gardens and meadows with a variety of flowers, with a variety of shapes and colors, with a diversity of native plants that provide full resources throughout the growing season. This is the most important thing. A constant supply of pollen and nectar will attract more pollinators. You can have pollinators on the native witch hazels in November. Yep, most people think at the end of October, oh yeah, the witch hazel blooming, so what? Well, it has to get pollinated because the following year, how they open up and spit their seed out about 4 to 5 meters. So again, and the other thing you can get on them is what was the thing? The 2 insects that we had last year. Hornets. Anyway, it was something we hadn't seen before, so it was kind of interesting. Gardens planted with a diversity of native plants will have more abundant and diverse populations of bees, wasps, butterflies, moths, beetles, flies, and other insects. I'm not trying to be repetitive. I'm trying to get certain points across. And sometimes you have to say it more than once. Diverse native wildflower gardens and meadows provide pollinators with nectar, pollen, and many nesting opportunities. Where do these pollinators nest? 70% of all our native bees nest in the ground. Even bumblebees, not very deep, but they'll use old rodent holes. There's a couple of examples all over the internet about how you can build a bumblebee nest box. And I'll just tell you that the half of the box is just cotton. And then you do PVC pipe or something like that to where they'll enter. But the nesting opportunities is really, really important. So plant gardens and meadows with a variety of flowers, variety of shapes, variety of colors. Native plants that flower throughout the growing season will and do attract more pollinators. We've got the red columbine in the upper left. We've got wild geranium in the center, and a dense blazing star on the right. And then we've got one of the mints clustered mountain mint. So clustered mountain mint is really a fabulous plant to have. Any of the pygmy ones are because they flower for so long. I mean, you go out there and, on the end of June, you start seeing bees on those things. And really, you can see them even into early October. Because that plant is rhizomatous. So it's just spreading its rhizomes, it's putting up new shoots, and those new shoots want to flower. So that is really, really interesting. The small butterflies and the skippers and the wasps really, really like the mountain mints. And again, garden plan with a diversity of native plants will have more abundant and diverse populations of bees, wasps, butterflies, mosquitoes, flies, and birds. 6. There's your hummingbird. That's on the giant yellow hyssop. So it's there. In our yard, we've got them where they're like 4 foot, but we also have them where they're like 6 foot. And nobody's going to vote it as the most beautiful wildflower in their garden. Well, they do a lot for hummingbirds. And it has a cousin called the giant purple hyssop. And that is a fiery skipper, which comes in very, very late in the year. And what's happening is it's moving north and will eventually die off for however far north it got. But they don't start moving north usually in September, as late as October. And so another reason to have stuff that flowers throughout the year. Diverse native wildflower gardens and meadows provide pollinators and nectar pollen many nest opportunities from April to late October and early November. This is the Penmar meadow, Penny and Larry Penmar meadow, and from when we first started to get it to this took 3 years. And please don't forget native flowering trees, shrubs, and vines. That's the silver bell tree in the upper left, red bug with a queen bumblebee in the center, up, witch alder on the upper right. And then you've got red spotted purple again on the Virginia sweetspire. And then you've got the hummingbird on the
Coral honeysuckle.
coral. That's what it is. Coral. Yeah, it's a coral honeysuckle. That coral is just what the honeysuckle is. And then that's one of the flowers that the pipeline swallowtail uses. This particular photo is of the tree that has these flowers. There is a herbaceous native plant that grows the same kind of flowers that occurs in this area. So if you've got pipeline swallowtails anywhere around where you're at, then that native plant's gonna be around there somewhere, because that's what they lay their eggs on. So all this stuff, with native flowering trees, shrubs, vines, grasses, wildflowers, can be planted in endless combinations to create welcoming gardens and meadows that will support pollinators and other wildlife and welcoming habitats. I could tell you that we have had native wildflowers just show up in our meadows. We didn't plant it, they just show up. Quick dancer in Virginia just showed up. So it isn't always about, having to plant something. And just for some of these are saying some of the different lower left, that's the giant swallowtail. And in the middle is a carpenter bee on Bush's poppy mallow. All right, let's start. Oops, we don't start. We got a plan on native plant garden. So first thing, what is your vision for your native plant garden or meadow? What information is needed to begin planning your native plant garden or meadow? What USDA hardiness zone do you live in? What is the available sunlight? Full, partly sunny / shaded, or shaded? What is the soil type? Sandy soils, loam soils, and clay soils? What type of soil moisture is available? Dry soils, medium soils, or moist soils? What or who benefits? Sometimes people want to plant to specifically bring in, usually it's some kind of butterfly. But anyway, it's what you put out certain plants, then you're benefiting a certain pollinator. And you know, host plants, skippers, type of butterflies, they use carrots and grasses to lay their eggs on. Most people would think that you would plant that kind of stuff. We get. You can even find it sometimes at some of the nurseries that have a pretty good native plant section, but little blue stems. You know, it doesn't have to be one of those honking 8-footers. You can have something like little blue stems, bootalua. You know, I know if you live in a subdivision, there can be some pretty stringent rules of what you can plant, what you can plant, and stuff like that, and that's okay. What native plants will you choose? What time of the year does it bloom? What is the flower's shape, color, and is it appealing to pollinators or the wildlife? What we're getting at in shape, let's think about the hummingbird. It likes those long funnel-shaped flowers. That's what they want. Color. Again, hummingbirds, red or white, and the white is hostas. They love hostas. So,
Is a deer.
yeah, yeah, they do. Anyway, and it's, you know, the what time of year does it bloom is extremely important. You're gonna see a slide here in a bit about butterflies and when they are alive and when they are gone and all that. My wife Penny has kept track of butterflies now for a very, very long time. She's identified over 62 species in her yard. And most of those are in the native plant gardens of meadows. Finally, is it appealing to you? Does it make you happy? If not, change the plant. Don't put something out there that, you know, the year following, you go, I really don't like this. I'm not gonna weed it. But if it isn't what you like, because I can tell you that Penny and I have dug out pre-existing gardens and gone with something else, you know, that's just part of gardening. That's part of the fun. What is your vision? Well, I'll share what Penny's and my vision of what we wanted for our meadow to be. We wanted an aesthetically pleasing meadow with lots of native wildflowers, grasses, and sedges, with a thriving pollinator habitat that would support butterflies, moths, bees, wasps, birds, and other wildlife. And at the end of the day, Penny and I are very pleased and enjoy it very much. So it doesn't have to be a meadow, it can be a garden. It's, you know, it's what you find that makes you happy. That's important. Because the pollinators are going to find those flowers anyway. So, all right. Oh, late last October, early November, the USDA issued a new plant hardiness zone map. Now, a hardiness zone doesn't mean how hot it gets. Nothing to do with how hot it gets. It's about how cold it gets. That's why they call it a hardiness zone. Is it going to be able to survive a certain winter low temperature or not? And so that's what that's all about. And when you go to some of the nurseries and have the thing where you can just click on something or put your zip code in, that's the thing now. Put your zip code in, they'll tell you what hardiness zone you're in. So we were in zone 16. That's what we were. Now let's move up into the east. And what I want you to see is this, right in here. It's 7A. We are now in zone 7A. So, being on the computer, Oregon State University did all this stuff for us. You can search by zip codes. I put in 25404 for Martinsburg, West Virginia, 2023 hardiness zone 7A, which means it does not get colder than 0 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. The 2012 hardiness zone was 6B, which was -5 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature change, cold now we're talking about, not heat, was 4 degrees from 2012 to 2000. So in 11 years, our winter cold type temperatures got warmer, and so we're at 7A now. And so it's in Hagerstown, Washington County, Maryland, District of Columbia. You also are seeing more of 7B on the Chesapeake Bay, which is kind of interesting. You have your vision for pollinator garden or meadow, and you have the information you need. Now think like a pollinator. Go native. Pollinators are best adapted to local native plants, which often need less water than cultivars. So there's the Penlar meadow in 2021, and here are variegated fritillaries on PVAS. Be showing flowers should bloom in your garden throughout the growing season. Plant pussy willow, service berry, violets, and wild hyacinths for spring, and aspen opieweed and goldenrod for the fall. And there's our friend on Cal Green Sweetmeat. And one of the last asters to flower in the season. That's the calico aster. Okay, be diverse. Plant a diversity of flowering species with abundant pollen, nectar, and specific native plants for feeding butterflies and moth caterpillars. So what we have here on the left-hand side is the white line sphinx moth, and it's on heartleaf 4 o'clock. If you have that particular wildflower in your garden right at about sunset, this is when these guys show up. So, and then over here on the right side, you got the variegated fritillary. The female down the bottom picture is ovipositing, and larvae are eating common blue violets. We have lots and lots of variegated fritillaries because we got lots and lots of common blue violet. Be aware, observe pollinators and other fascinating insects when you walk outside in nature. Notice which native wildflowers attract bumblebees, solitary bees, moths, wasps, and beetles. That is a leaf cutter bee on the azure blue sage that is native to this neck of the woods. And notice where the pollen is. It's on its abdomen. It does not have pollen baskets like a bumblebee has. It just piles it on and, you know, takes it back. And then over here on the right, this is a great golden digger wasp, and it's entering a nesting tunnel in season. Be a little messy. Most of our native bee species, 70%, that's underground, so avoid using weed cloth or heavy mulch. Weed cloth is the kiss of death for ground nesting bees. They cannot get to it. They cannot get to it. Okay, this is bees sunny. Dry areas with sunny, bare soil that's dry and well drained, preferably with south-facing slopes. This is the we call it a rock garden because it's got rocks in it, but it was sand is the basic material. The sand we put in there was like 10 to 12 inches deep. Over here on the right, you got an angle square-headed wasp nest in sand garden. For those of you who don't, it's always helpful, right? There is the nest hole. Okay, be patient. I can't emphasize that. Be patient. It takes time for native plants to grow. And for pollinators to find your garden, especially if you live far from wild lands. So, for the Penlar Meadow, here we are in 2014, we hired a landscaper who came in with a industrial roller tiller that puts on the PTO and got the 8 acres chewed up and then smoothed off. So then in January 2015, I had bought seed and then just tossing it out on the snow in January, because it's got, most of those have to be stratified. They've got to go through cold stratification in order to germinate. And if they don't germinate, they'll wait until the next one. But remember, a seed is a living organism, and it can only handle so many years of living off what's in the seed. And in 2016, we put in a lot of plugs of perennial flowers so as to have adults quicker, but seed production over the area quicker. And that really worked, because June 2017, patience is rewarded. That's the lance, leaf coreopsis, and then Pestamon digitalis. So and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah. Dehoming. Make small piles of branches to attract butterflies and moths. Provide hollow twigs, rotten logs with wood boring beetle holes and bunch grasses. Leave stumps full of rodent burrows and fallen plant material producing leaves. And let it stay where you put it and allow it to decompose over winter. That decomposing organic material will replenish your native plants' soils and be ready for the next spring, and it's free. Okay, now we went pretty hardcore on our wildflower gardens in front of our house, and Penny did all the leveling and measuring. Larry pumped the blocks to wherever they were needed. But again, it takes time. I mean, we didn't construct all of this in one season, but you can see the progression, and then good things come to those who wait. So in front, on the bottom of that image is a rock garden. One of the main plants you're seeing in there is the native wild onion, Rebecca fulgida, which is in bloom up in the upper part. Okay, this is the next one to really get your favorite. Butterfly arrival and departure. This information is all from this area. This is based on Peggy every year keeping track of when she sees stuff by month. And so some of the things I want you to see, like the azures, the zebra, swallowtail, and the cloudy sulfur, all are there in April. But the azure is gone by the end of May. The zebra swallowtail is there like for the whole growing season to the end of September. The clouded sulfur goes all the way to October. So now we come to something a little more different. The common buckeye, July and August, only 2 months, well into the growing season. And again, they're coming from further south of this location. Banded hair streak, again, 2 months, June, July. Hackberry ever, 4 months. Zabulon skipper, 4 months. The tawny edge skipper. These next few, I want you to know is October, 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 October. October is not, you know, magic, but what it is there's still a lot of people around who want to eat. And so, this is just great information, you know. Because once you know what you need to have, that's if you desire having, these butterflies. It's up to you. Ensure there's an adequate supply of pollen and nectar throughout the entire growing season. We got a queen bumblebee on a red bud that was April 8th in 2020. Those queens wake up and then they go and they have to find a nesting location, and then they gotta go around and collect pollen, not nectar, but pollen, so they can make a bread, the pollen bread. And they have to have that nest provisioned to where the first eggs that she lays that are fertile, because she got mated the previous fall. So he's got to get a lot of work done. But once she's got it done and got the first brood off, she does not leave that nest. She will die in that nest. Common blue violet, this is in the Panhandle meadow. This is, you know, it's hard to see it, but that's not bare ground. That's all purple from common blue violets. That's April 17th. Hoverfly on Possum Hall, June 6th. This was the neatest bee that we've ever found, at least in my time. The oblique longhorn bee on Gaillardia, also known as blanket's flower. It's on those big front legs. There's no pollen baskets. It's just punching it in there, and it works. Ruby-throated hummingbird on a royal catch fly, legs up almost the end of July. American witch hazel, November 6th. Usually when you look up witch hazel, what pollinates it, you'll see winter moth. Is primarily it. Okay, this is another great useful tool. This is called, it's from Plant Finder, with it's put together by the Missouri Botanical Garden on St. Louis, Missouri. And I accessed this in January 8th. And it has, and I realize you can't read all that stuff, but it will have the common name and then the scientific name, and then it gets into various categories. And then at the, it will tell you, like, if it's a host plant in that next to last column. And then the very last column is just other websites that you can go to get additional information. So here's one that was up a little bit larger. So you got a red buckeye, Aesculus pavia, light. What's the light conditions? Full sun. Yep. All the way down. Full sun. Part shade. Yep. Full down. Shade. For Aesculus pavia, yes. Not so much of the naughty wild onion, and yes for service berry. And so the other categories that they have is soil moisture, height, minimum, maximum, what kind of habitat, what time of year it's blooming, spring, summer, fall, pollinators, bee, beetle, whatever, you know, whatever. And is it a pollinator magnet? Means it's a really good thing to plant. And then you notice on the next to last column on the right, on the very last line, you see stripe, hair streak, host. So they've got that down too. Again, it just makes life interesting if you know what to look for. Oh, I got this plant, maybe I'll see this butterfly. The end of the growing season is actually the beginning of conserving pollinators and other native insects. Please hesitate and give thought before gathering all the native wildflower, grass, sedge stems, their seed heads, and leaves from them and dispose of them. Germinating seed from the native plants in your garden or meadow will provide extra new plants the following spring. As the spent vegetation decomposes, it replenishes the soil while providing an excellent organic mulch. Winter birds, our winter birds will eat seed from the spent flower heads. Insectivorous birds will find overwintering insects among the dead vegetation to consume. It's just, everything is kiwis. The kiwis I get in my yard in the wintertime, bird feeders, nah. But they're down in really heavily branched stuffs, and they can see where there's an egg or something on it, and they'll grab it. And that's why I think why we have kiwis in our yard, because that's what I hope is more. Native bees, now there is an overwinter in the spent stems. If you went out right now and found an easy one, if you had hollyhocks in your yard, cut it off and then split it down the middle, you take a look, it's a pretty good chance you're going to find something that overwintered in it. Okay. Over the next couple of slides, I am not promoting any particular nursery. I'm just letting you know what's happening around. So Prairie Moon Nursery puts out an annual catalog, which some outfits do, some don't. But what they do that nobody else does, they also put out, like for this one, it's the 2024 Cultural Guide. What that means is all this information you need to know in order to be successful with planting native plants. So they'll tell you, it isn't just about soil, stratification. It has to do with how many days. Some they want 90 days or more. Some can get by with 60. Some can get by with 30. So all this kind of information is in there. It'll help you out. It'll help you out. I talked to these folks because I was trying to get 50 catalogs to hand out. And a woman from the nursery called me and she goes, Larry, we can't do that. I said, well, that's fine. That's okay. Figured I'd ask. And she goes, catalogs cost so much money now that they're really, really trying to get their regulars to use the internet catalog. So both of these documents are online. Okay, and here's one of the things they do that is kind of different. These are seed packets. And you can order a particular packet, and then you can order it for some size of ground. So when Penny and I did our meadow, we had an 8 acre prepared, and we picked the PVT pretty darn quick. See next. So anyway, it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but you can take a look at it because the smaller the area you're trying to do, the price goes down. And so, and notice they've got one that's called shortgrass inexpensive seed mix. Because they know. Okay, prairie nursery. Now, this is incorporated into their online catalog. Planting for pollinators. Native plant selection guide for season-long pollinator support in the landscape. This is a really fabulous document. Plant a pollinator seed mix to help bring back the pollinators. It was designed in collaboration with the Xerxes Society. This mix supports an array of native pollinators, long-tongued bees, solitary bees, butterflies, moths, and others will benefit from the diverse bloom, shapes, and colors, offering nectar and pollen throughout the growing season. And they do it this way. I mean, they're right up front. If you want a quarter pound, that's what it's going to cost. They don't offer anything any cheaper. They do offer plants. You can buy plants. Prairie Moon does the same thing. You can buy plants. And I'll tell you right here and now, if you don't get on the website by mid-December through January, they're gonna be sold out. They're gonna be sold out. Again, Missouri Botanical Garden Plant Finder. You can click on a species and then you'll get this document with all kinds of information. You know, you can read it online, you can print it off. These are fabulous. These are fabulous. The USDA NRCS plants database. I'm going to assume the majority of you have visited the plants database. So not every species contained within the database has a plant guide or a plant fact sheet, but a lot of them do. And the best thing to do is you put in the name, you look it up, and got one, you got one. But these things are extremely informative and very, very valuable, I think. And now we have the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia on the left. Again, a lot of good information. And then on the right, just to show you what's going on in the industry. This is New Moon Nursery. They sell nothing but plant starts to the wholesale industry. And so I did what was necessary so I could be a wholesale client. What I had to do with how much money I had to spend up front. But now that I've spent, I can afford just one tray of 50 if I want. But anyway, they put out a lot of good information, like this one on Asclepias tuberosa, the butterfly weed. And then one that I think we could use, I mean, it's just across the state line. The Ridge and Valley chapter of the Virginia Native Plant Society put out this, it's a spiral bound little book. There's a lot of good information in it. It's a gardener's guide to Virginia's Ridge and Valley native plants. Well, you know, we got 2 counties that are Ridge and Valley, so that's a good one. Native plants for Northern Virginia, which is put out by Plant Nova natives in Plant Northern Virginia natives. And then the Pollinator Partnership, we gave them all the these documents, and then they updated them. Then they also created one of, you know, type in your zip code and you'll get whatever one of these you know. Most of these are like 24 pages long, so I think there's a lot of good information in them. And at the end of the day, are you happy? I was. Yeah, look at that. Hard to say that we didn't meet our goals. So anyway, thank you kindly, and I'll entertain any questions if we still have time.
When you say plants for pollinators, you mean host and nectar plants?
Yep.
And if one plant serves both purposes
That's a rarity.
and is not native, like root, or you,
Mhm.
I get giant swallowtails or that rock swallowtails.
Yep.
And the fact that it is native doesn't bother me if it feeds those guys.
That's why I said, what you
Yeah.
get. It's what you want. Does it make you happy? I mean, that's what it's right down to. We have planted non-natives, especially Ischulus, the red buckeye, which only gets about 20 foot tall. It's drop dead gorgeous with these big, huge inflorescences of red flowers. Guess who was on that early in the spring? Hostas. Ruby-throated hummingbirds love, I can't say enough, love hostas. You know, they could care less. That's when you see color, shape, whatever. For a hummingbird, what they're looking for is shape. They want the puddle-like thing that they can go into. It's like there's some natives that are kind of aggressive. With the big orange tube flowers that can go like 50 feet if you don't take care of it. So, yeah. What you want? Yes,
With, in terms of hostas, is that an equivalent of like the butterfly bush? So are we worried about it lacking actual nutritional value for the hummingbird?
no, because they're collecting nectar. If there wasn't any nectar in that hosta, they wouldn't be using it. Butterfly bush, I have a personal opinion about that thing. It's not very favorable.
It makes a lot of people happy.
I know it makes a lot of people happy. It's invasive. You know, let's be honest, it is invasive. So find something else. Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of flowering shrubs that are flowering all through the growing season. And, you know, butterflies, skippers, bees, you know, everybody uses it. The hard work is finding the nurseries you can get them from. You know, I will promote one nursery. Because somebody forwarded it to me, so I'm gonna move it on and share. What's that, like west of Shippensburg? Lurgan's Nursery. If you go to that nursery, you'll just die. And I bought on our last trip 10 of the Asclepias tuberosas, like in a 5-inch pot. It's a Mennonite nursery. The price was $4.25. That's a pretty good price for a wildflower. It's native.
How's it spelled?
Lurgan's, Lurgans. Being Mennonite, they do not have a website.
And they don't take credit cards, you gotta bring cash or check.
But if you do full Bergen, you can find directions.
Yes,
So just Google it.
Yep.
and-
yes. There's another website that does that for that county. It's unbelievable the pricing that they have. It is, I would say, very, very favorable to the consumer. You're not trying to make a killing off of anything.
Pricing and variety,
Huh?
pricing and variety.
Yes, yeah. You will not believe how large the portion of this, the greenhouse portion is. It's unbelievable. It really, really is. I've never seen an indoor nursery that large. And you with some of the ones down close to DC, no, not that large. So if you ever had that chance, you know, somebody told me about it and we went up there and the first time we went up there, though.
Yes, first
Yeah.
time we went up there, we were surprisingly closed for Ascension Thursday. You're like, what? Yeah,
Well,
they're always closed on Sunday, but they take other
religious
religious holidays
holidays.
too, so you
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah.
be aware.
So the first time, it was a Thursday, you think almost? And she finally figured out, oh, it's essentially Thursday. So they're friendly people. You know, they'll answer your questions. They have a great diversity of woody plants. Vines. I recently bought, the American wisteria quintessens, which is the only nice one. Like the rest of them are horrid. So, you'd be surprised, I was pointing out that how many TV shows done in Europe. All these houses got wisteria growing all over the place. If you're ever in the South, there was at the Arnold Arboretum, a spontaneous hybrid between the Japanese and the Chinese wisterias occurred. What you got was the best of both worlds. You got flowering or leaf out, you got odor, no odor. Well, if you go down to the south, if you've ever seen kudzu, this looks like kudzu. I mean, it's up to the top of the canopies. And, yeah, it's nasty. It really is, because it kills the trees. Oh, the other thing I'll tell you is interesting, that I was doing. back first 100 years of European settlement, we were bringing in all kinds of non-native trees and shrubs, but the beach is such a nuisance right now, that got brought in the 1600s. I mean, you know, you start looking at all this other stuff, you go, my God, it's more than just cutting down the forest, it's what else they're planting. And the thing about the maple, the Norway maple, it's considered an invasive species in Rhode Island. In Rhode Island, they don't have that species, so it's not listed as invasive. So what's happening down there is farmers are planting the Norway maple in plantations for maple syrup. You can get the same maple syrup. It's just a little bit less per tree than what the native one does, but it's good enough for those guys to make a killing on it. So, anybody else got a question?
What was the percentage of pollination done by moths?
I don't know the number, but I know the article is really, Doug County is really pushing that. People don't realize how important moths.
Because my neighbor has one of those lights, you know, those zappers. They don't sit outside, so I don't know what it's doing out there. But if I ever have a chance, I'd love to. You know.
Yeah,
I was thinking now, put it out.
Throw that, but you know.
yes,
So thanks for your presentation. So you talked about climate change and that all of our forests are dynamic systems, are constantly changing, right? When we start to think about, assisted migration of tree species and things like that, you know, we have these seed transfer zones and all of that. When we start bringing stuff up into our gardens or into the forest, are we worried about that idea of like
neonatos.
invasive or anything like that, or shifting the composition of our forests beyond what they,
Well, here's the deal.
you know?
The forest has been changed so much.
Yeah.
In my mind, it doesn't. It's already, the damage is already done. And I'll tell you, you know, most of us don't like white-tailed deer. But guess what white-tailed deer do for trillions? They eat the fruits. They'll travel 2 miles, defecate and plant trees. White-tailed deer, oh, you don't want to read the really bad stuff about that. It's amazing how much damage they're responsible for. It's not just, you know, hospitals. Yes,
Do you keep deer out? Do you have a deer exposure and your place?
well, not yet.
Laser guns now, don't you?
Well, you know, the timber has been, you know, brought in, and we're gonna put in a deer fence. It will not exclude them from the entire property, because that's just too expensive. And so, we're hoping to get, a man to help us put that in. If not, we'll do it ourselves. We'll put it along, the kennel fence line, that fence is full of tall. But 10-foot centers, 4x4s, with 2x4s at the top, and then down at 4 foot, and then attaching fence to that.
To make it about 8 feet tall. Yeah, make these 8 feet, and then under 8 feet, those jump over.
Right, which is why I'm doing 18. Well, you know,
We waste a lot of money for not this land. Well, obstacles for us.
well, here, you know, it's a matter of how much money are you going to invest, because I mean, you're gonna go higher. You're not talking about 11-foot long, you're talking about 12-foot long, 4x4. And that will get, each increment has 10, it's highly expensive. Highly expensive.
It's not about some laser guns. Yeah.
Well, okay, look, the main reason we are doing this is because they decimated parts of our vegetable garden last year.
We have anything else?
Green peppers, well, they need to be 4 inches tall before they got nailed. Woodchucks, that's another problem.
You ain't got concrete all the way around, that's terrible.
Well, we have a 8-inch Sprinter Spaniel that doesn't like the woodchuck.
But
Yeah, that doesn't
probably
have-
not out at night too much. No, well, at night.
So, but I was able to put 2-foot high fence to keep the woodchuck out.
Well, I used to dig under that.
Huh?
Probably didn't dig under it.
They did.
They got one. All ones out, they always got.
Well, no, because before we put the fence in, we saw them damage. They would take like 2 bites out of the tomato and then move on to the next one. Yes. So, I just, made the decision, I'll try 2 foot.
Yeah.
Again, it was a cost. Yes.
Question, your yard looks like, it might be in kind of suburban setting, just given the style of the house and everything. We live in a neighborhood that was built in, the 1980s. Most everything is very manicured. I think they took away all the topsoil when they built the houses, and they put trenches a little back after they got through. And then, they've been Chemlon for 40 years, and so we're starting from that. And they do have any recommendations about resources for, trying to build your soil up, but it might take longer than we have yet to live. And any suggestions, books we can turn reading about?
It's suburban. We have gravel road and there's maybe, how many houses now? 8 houses. on
Like
that
the
gravel.
place we moved out of.
Yeah. I mean, we own 5 acres. And most of the homeowners there own 5 acres, 7 acres or 10 acres. And, it's one of those quick things like this, I don't know, we go over to our car and there's this bald eagle just whipping around and Penny found a bald eagle on one of our black cherry trees last year, so.
We have an abundance of squirrels. We have, birds that come from feeders, they're rabbits. But we don't have much variety, and like, just trying to work with, it's not even soil with that stuff.
Clay, basically.
And just play,
Grass.
even at the other place, we had violets, and we could like pull out the other stuff and the violets would grow. We have grass, and where we did pull it out, it's like, there's nothing there. And we don't even, like, I guess we'll find a place to buy violets because we want some.
I'll tell you what, find a friend on, that has common blue.
Because really, that would be the best.
Yeah. I mean, they spread like crazy.
Yeah, they do. We just, there's no
Yes,
way.
Yeah, on the picture that you're showing now, I noticed that on single species. Now, were those started from individual plants or from seed planted and so?
Those were started from, 3 5 individuals. When you're planting in that type of garden, the recommendation is 3 to 5. And you're here, they want you to be, 12 inches apart. If you're doing a meadow, 15 inches apart. And so these really aren't one seeded. I mean, there's a lot of different wild hogs in there. You just have to.
How long it takes to get it that far?
Huh?
How long it takes to get that high? 2-3 years?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you go out and you buy something in a box, and you gotta put it in, it does, that's why I said, good things come to those who wait. I mean, my mother taught me that.
So those are like clumps of 3 to 5, rings of 3 to 5 potted
Right.
plants that have been spread for what, 3 years, 5 years.
Well, they'll spread as far as you let them spread. This garden is being allowed to wild. A garden like this, wilding means not pulling anything out. And if something goes across the path or something goes in, you just accept it. And it will get more like a jungle with time.
And when did you establish it? Like before, how many years before the picture was taken?
I don't know, you know,
It doesn't even look like this anymore, it's totally different.
yeah,
He's pretty young now.
yeah.
Yes, you got hair. Just in a while.
Well, you know, we came here in '98. That's when we came here. So. Yes,
Do you know of any, tall grasses that would do well in short sun? You know, a lot of them like full sun.
well, yeah, but you got native grasses that don't necessarily want full sun.
Okay.
Again, that's just a thing of, going on to one of these nursery sites where you can look up all the information. So, yeah. Basically, even a sunny plant, like something, they don't need 6 hours a day. That's all they need.
It's basically just like 2 to 3 hours.
Okay,
Yeah, okay.
well, in that case, sedges are a good, recommendation to think about. And, some of them are very aggressive in moving around. Pennsylvania sedge is one. Another popular one that's, got people's interest is, it's Cherokee, Texas, Cherokee sedge. And then there's one of those sedges that's over at Yang color as the big wide leaves, like Dolphin or carrots. Appalachian, I don't know. Anyway, it grows near the cliffs, so you know, so like, well, how close am I to? That's it.
Yeah, I have another question. You know, could you recommend any, like public gardens or botanical gardens that would have this type of planting?
I can tell you that if you go over, in Delaware, Mount Cuba, Longwood Gardens, there's a number of gardens over in that neck of the woods. And if you want to see trilliums, it's really Mount Cuba, when they're all in bloom, is something to just to see.
I like their kind of a mix of meadow as well as the forested areas.
Yeah.
Really. There's other people haven't been there. It's really a nice term.
Yeah. Their mission in life is determining Piedmont plants that will grow where they are, you know. That's their whole thing. They're not interested in non-natives. They are looking, now, they are interested in cultivars because part of that has to do with not every cultivar is a bad cultivar. What happens is, in that garden, it's still to this day, it's still got a lot of cultivars in there. Every 2 to 3 years, I'll get a white sport. That's a selection. If I was to take that white flowered echinacea and then begin to throw it out, with, you know, isolating it from all the pink and red ones, you know, that's how a lot of these are done. Hello yellow for the orange milkweed. Well, it's like a lemon yellow. I saw that once along a road in central Illinois. Sports happen. And you'll find out that even in the nursery trade where they're doing the propagations, they'll find a sport. And I'll just read what the species was, but the guy grew out 2,000 seed for this particular farm perennial, and then found a sport, trashed the rest of them, and they grew that one. They trademarked. That's the other thing now. It used to be that they didn't trademark plants. They give them names now, and then the cultivar name they give them is some gobbledygook that you can't even pronounce because it's trademarked. They're the ones that can sell it. And,
Earlier one was to sell 150.
right, yeah. Yeah, yes, sir.
For your meadow that you said you use seed in 2015, I think some plants in 2016. How often have you had to reseed and put in new plants?
That was the last time. That was the last time. I did that because I was aware of some perennials I wanted that were aggressive. And one of them, is a yellow, umbilical that I might have put 1 or 2 plants in there, and now there's probably in the springtime, several. Um,
And have you ever had to deal with grass, just regular grass growing into your meadow that you have to deal with in the beginning?
In the beginning, you know, that one picture we were seeing, that was all, orchid plants. And, you know, if you pull that stuff for X number of years, eventually it's under control. Because you gotta ask yourself, where's it gonna come from?
Yeah.
Where's it gonna come from? But yeah, orchard grass is the nemesis of people who want meadows. It really is. So, you know, I don't recommend it. I might use it sometimes, but, you know, herbicide, sometimes it's the last resort. And orchard grass, that's the last resort. You won't get rid of it, at least in my experience. You won't get rid of it. You can try to dig it out, it doesn't work. At least it doesn't, it has never worked. I should say. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, Louis Ginter Botanical Garden in Richmond is doing a whole new install of new naturalistic plantings. I think this spring, and it's like 2 or 3, like, pretty good designers that are those up, so that's another one to maybe check out.
Yeah. Been a long time.
If you like to travel, Missouri Botanical Garden will knock your socks off.
This one,
Missouri Botanical
oh,
Garden,
yeah,
it's right in the middle of St.
it
Louis.
was about 40 years ago.
Well, you know, yeah, 1984, 85. I was working on my doctorate at the time, and it was really neat to go over there. You got assigned a personal librarian that you didn't go to the shelves and pick up one, because you gave them the list, they put books, they're active. I took one with me one time to photograph some watercolor paintings, various mysterious folios. These are just humongous books with 16 pages primarily. And you know, it was just really, really fascinating. I love that place. I love that place. And at one point, Fridays were empty for me. Now it's looking like that. Buildings every other Friday. The bookups. Because, see, they had stuff.
Yeah.
That other places didn't have. And my major professor had been an undergraduate student there. And so he was able to get me in. We get hooked up with what I need to be hooked up with. So it was fun. It was
Yeah, I was in graduate school, so. You know,
you know. Yes,
Is there an upcoming native plant sale or people might be able to?
yes, there is.
It's a little closer than Lurgan's.
It's definitely closer to you. It's Sunny Meadows, an excellent partner of this group, as you know, our wild bird seed sales. And this is what, the 3rd or 4th year now for the native plant sales. And they do a wonderful job over there.
They're very knowledgeable and friendly.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Yep, again, not to push anything, but it's a Mennonite nursery. I've learned over the years, those nurseries, I've never seen an Amish nursery, but I've seen Mennonite nurseries. And yeah, they're all, I think, pretty fabulous because they're dedicated to the community.
Yep, and the more plants we buy at these local nurseries, the more that they will have in stock. And so that's what we're really trying to push for Sunny Meadows. We're trying to bring them people and show them that we want native plants, so please.
Yeah.
Stop
Yeah.
smoking, other things like.
Well, the thing is, you go over there, they've got only so many square feet of table in that nursery. So when we're asking them to increase the square footage of natives, that means they're decreasing the footprint of some other plants that they know they sell. And I'll tell you one thing, I like, the first nursery I've ever been to that sells spigelia in Atlantica. It's a beautiful upright red tubular flower with yellow type, petals coming out of it, so.
This is expanding their,
Just built all new greenhouse,
greenhouse,
yeah.
a huge greenhouse in Denver. Instead of a couple areas, but huge. greenhouse.
Well, the huge one, because you don't even get to see is, well, it's way back, it's like maybe a quarter to a third mile way now. And that's where they start, probably the vast majority, except for the woody plants. If it's herbaceous, they're starting it from seed.
Yeah, I never did that.
Have you ever run across Italian airborne? Are you familiar?
Yes.
with that?
Yep.
Any way to, I haven't, I don't know where it came from, but I've got clumps like this all over.
Well, it's rhizomatous, it's rhizomatous, so that's
Yeah,
the first problem.
but
Well, one thing you can do, you know how it's got that
I mean,
space,
it's not where I mow, but it's all in,
I only, sometimes it's first offer people, just cut off the fruits before they
I did
mature.
that last year. I found this big patch with all these red, yeah, but I still have, and then I saw it at a neighbor's place. And I sent her an email and then said, I just noticed this was in your flower bed. You better get rid of it. Because it'll have it all over the place. It's attractive, and I think that's why people don't. I've even seen it at Blandy. Believe it or not.
Well, just give them to plant, Jack and Jill in the pulpit. Jill, you ever heard about Jill in the pulpit? It's interesting, they actually could change specs in one season.
I don't
to
care what
another.
they do in the bedroom.
I always thought that was a really neat mechanical effect, that the year they farm and go to fruit, the next year, there's no
They
energy
get that
there,
funny
so
white flower with that,
it's phase,
yeah, it really,
but it's a native, it grows pretty easy.
So moving beyond like just a front garden or whatever, do you have any thoughts on how to reintroduce the native understory plants that should be in the woods, but maybe aren't?
Well,
How to
I
start?
think the first thing you need to do is to figure out why they aren't there in the years. Do you have stilt grass, for example, bush honeysuckles?
Invasives, deer.
Yeah, any kind of invasive, a lot of woods, are invasive are us. I mean, that's what's happened to these. That's what happened, well, Eastern deciduous forest.
Right. Should you ameliorate those issues on your property, though, like planting strategies or anything,
I don't think there's a planting strategy that per se will make you happy. You're going to have to attack the problem. And, a good. I mean, the multiple rows, that's sort of nasty. Next to it, impossible to get rid of. Autumn olive, Russian olive, I mean, we can go down the list of about 10, but if you want to try to get rid of stuff, think about what you could do that your neighbors would accept if you have neighbors, or what, in other words, would you prescribe for neighbors? Another thing on stiltgrass you can do is a little mowing tool with a cord that goes around.
weed whipper.
Weed, yep, wiper.
yeah.
If you go in, now, 1st of August, and blast all your stiltgrass, it cannot set seed. It's an annual. So there's a year now, realize there's probably 5 to 10 years worth of seed in. So, you know, that's a long-term effort. And if you get frustrated, then don't even start it. Well, when I was in, Illinois, you know, we had these problems, in nature preserves and stuff like that. I mean, Oriental bittersweet, I can remember working a week where we were just cutting the stems and treating them. I mean, you know, it's like, not much there is, I've seen enough to know there's a lot of these, forget it. You're just gonna have to learn to live with them. And that's sad, but that's, in my professional opinion, is the truth. I've had to write a lot of stuff in the field, what they might do, yes.
A question about wasps.
Yep.
Just going all the way back, so I've heard that they're incidental pollinators, so they don't mean to do it, but they kind of do it. Is that not true?
Not true.
Okay.
There's a select group of wasps that are pollinators. When you saw that one photo of the scarlet wasp, they're collecting pollen. That's what they do. Not all of them. It's a paper wasp, no.
Yellow
But the-
jackets.
Yellow jackets. Sometimes. It depends on what's available. And if it's the lowest common denominator that's available, then they'll go for the lowest common denominator. And that's really, you see that a lot in late October going into November when they're not fully hibernating yet, so to speak. But no, there's a fascinating book out called Wasps. And it's about every single one of them. And so you can look up the ones that are pollinators and see what they're doing.
Are they aggressive with other pollinators?
No. I don't think I've ever seen any particular pollinator being aggressive to another pollinator in the same genus. If you got enough flowers, everybody gets along.
That's the answer, just plant more.
Well, it's the honest truth. It's what I call the simple truth. Don't overthink it. Well, again, thank you so very much. I really enjoyed tonight and I enjoyed getting to interact with you. So, good evening, everyone.
And I do want to mention too, that Larry has already provided a lot of the resources that he was pointing out in his presentation. So on the monthly program page on our website, there's already links to all of the links.